Hello, I'm James Jack, the head of the Business Owners Client segment for UBS Wealth Management USA, and welcome to Founders and Funders, our conversation series with women entrepreneurs focusing on how they built, exited, and supported successful businesses. To catch all the episodes, please subscribe to Founders and Funders playlist on UBS's YouTube channel so you can keep up to date on all the episodes in the series. Leading this month's Founders and Funders UBS conversation is Vanessa Alonso. Vanessa is the branch manager of our Bethesda, Maryland office, and she has been working with financial advisors and business owners throughout her entire career. And I'm so excited to have her lead the conversation with Ellen Marie Bennett, the founder and CEO of Hedley Bennett, and the author of the new book, Dream First, Details Later: How to Quit Overthinking and Make It Happen, which was released earlier this year. Vanessa, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, James, and thank you to our viewers for joining us today for a conversation with Ellen Marie Bennett. Ellen is the founder and CEO of Hedley Bennett, the leading Los Angeles-based culinary workwear brand, and the author of the new book, Dream First, Details Later: How to Quit Overthinking and Make It Happen. Ellen spent her youth between LA and Mexico, and in her early 20s found herself cooking in a 2 Michelin star restaurant. It was during this time working on the line that she experienced a uniform that was not aligned with the creativity and confidence found in the kitchen. This led to the vision for Hedley Bennett: make the best aprons in the world by marrying the needs of professional chefs with the design trends for today's discerning consumers. Today, Hedley Bennett make more than aprons, but culinary workwear and gear that outfits over 6,000 restaurants, hotels, coffee shops, resorts, and hundreds of thousands of home cooks all over the world. Ellen, hello and welcome to Founders and Funders. I am so excited to talk to you about your journey today.
So excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right in. Over the last nearly a decade, you've built an incredible business and your products are in professional and home kitchens the world over. But it all started with a few $100s and a chance from your chef boss. Can you tell us a bit about how you started?
Yes, just like the title of my book says, it was very dream first, details later. Not a lot of thinking about the long-term side effects of this wild decision. But I think that sometimes the best things happen that way. And if I had overanalyzed everything, I don't know that I would have begun. So it started almost 9 years ago now, almost a decade, which is wild. And it was me standing in this kitchen. I was working as a line cook, and the chef said to me, "Hey, there's a girl. She's going to make us aprons. Do you want to buy one?" And I said, "Chef," I like blurted it out before I actually processed what I was saying. And I was like, "Chef, I have an apron company." And I just like spit it out and convinced him to give me this order of aprons instead of whoever else was going to get the order. And out of nowhere, I had an order of 40 aprons and this opportunity to take what was just an idea in my head and turn it into a reality. And he said yes. And I had to figure it out. My job was on the line. I had this dream, and here was the little boat sailing by. And I decided to take a leap and to just make it happen.
Well, one of my favorite parts of the book I had tabbed here that I wanted to point out is your 6 starter ideas. And I love the title of this: 6 starter ideas for building your confidence belt based on some crazy ass things I've actually tried and some less dramatic but still helpful ways you can get started. So very functional advice here, and this is a great part of the book.
Yeah, I love that page. Do you want to lift it up? I want to show people because it's really colorful and fun. I made it very lively because I think that business is not black and white. It is extremely colorful. So yeah, I get into just some of the ways that I began the business. It was like making a decision and then following up. I was very old school in many ways. I never spent more than I made in the early days. I mean, even now, we reinvested every penny back into the company. I took advice very seriously. And it really helped when I would meet with people in person and just listen to what was right and what was wrong around the product, because it was like a live focus group. And there's so many things that people have done so well through the years that you don't have to reinvent every wheel, right? To begin a great business, sometimes it's just like committing to a quality product, having passion around it, and listening to what people really need and want in whatever it is that you're assembling. And that's what I did. And I kept it simple. I didn't have a MBA or a business background. So I just used the skills I had to make something out of nothing. And that might sound very simple, but sometimes simple is what it takes to get something from 0 to 1 to 2 to 10 to 20.
Well, you also mentioned in your book that your heritage is a big part of your identity. Your mother is Mexican and you spent a lot of time in Mexico when you were younger. How does your heritage play a role in Hedley and Bennett?
A huge role. I mean, I grew up half Mexican, half English, right? My dad is English, my mom is Mexican, and I would spend the summers in Mexico. And what I loved about it was that everything was so colorful and very simple in many ways. I had lots of friends there that just, didn't even have a real floor in their home, and it didn't matter. Nobody said anything about it. It was just like, oh, that's my friend Teresa down the street. And there was an appreciation for just life itself, not the things that life had, if that makes sense. And I noticed how all of those friends I had in Mexico, they were super happy and their families congregated around food for dinner. And whether it was just beans and tortillas for a meal, they invited me over and I loved it. And it was so much fun. It was so delicious. And yet in the United States, I might have gone to a friend's house and it was really fancy and elegant and the parents weren't around and it was some, maybe like a nanny serving you or whatever. And it was just such a radical difference. So I appreciated from very early on that it wasn't the material things that made you happy. It was actually your environment and the people and the appreciation for other things, non-materialistic. That was really where it was at. So I loved that from a very young age. And then on the flip side, I would come and live in LA, and my English grandfather, Hedley, that's who Hedley is, he would have tea at 4 p.m. and our Great Danes would be running around. And it was just such a radical difference that I had this very like proper, serious upbringing combined with like colorful and Willy Wonka running around the markets in Mexico upbringing. So Hedley and Bennett is a smash up of those two cultures. And I think it's a smash up for me as well. I love the radical differences. And I think that you can pull inspiration from places that are very, very different. And not everything is cookie cutter, white and black. It's just different is better. The world wants different.
Well, let's talk a little bit about funding for Hedley and Bennett. It's no secret that women entrepreneurs receive a very small amount of the capital from investors like venture capital and private equity, only about 3%. Yes. And women of color entrepreneurs even less. How have you built your company, and what advice would you give to the entrepreneurs listening in?
I built it, as I said earlier, the old school way. It was brick by brick, and as I like to call it, street by street, chef by chef. The early days began with me getting that first order that I told you about. And after that, I felt such an adrenaline to get further orders that I would go to food events and farmers markets and show up anywhere where our audience existed. And I would just talk to people. And by word of mouth and referrals, other people were connected to us. And we got people like Martha Stewart and David Chang on the bandwagon pretty early on. And because you saw these incredibly influential chefs wearing this product, all of a sudden people were like, what is that? That's really cool. Okay, that cute little apron idea is maybe not so cute after all. There's something to it. So more and more people started to get it, and it became like a cult following in the food space. And I did that for several years. And so, when you hear of like, it's an overnight success, it's really just years in the making where no one's talking about it while you are chiseling away, building that foundation to get to a place where maybe in the future you could have investors if that's what you want. But for me, I appreciated that longer journey because it taught me how to run a company financially solvent. It taught me how to actually acquire customers in a real and organic way. And it tested the product again and again and again. And after several years of outfitting only professional restaurants, like we would essentially outfit all of the what they call front of house and back of house with aprons and uniforms. We were doing everything custom. So you can imagine how complicated that was. We came to a place where as a business, we realized, you know what? There's so much opportunity here in the direct to consumer space, all of these home cooks that admire and love all these chefs that were outfitting their favorite restaurants are outfitted by this. Every single show you see on television, from Top Chef to everything on the Food Network, they're wearing Hedley and Bennett. You'll recognize our little ampersand patch on the chest. And I thought, wow, that is the future. That's what we need to go after next. And it was only at that point, several years in, I mean, I'm talking 7.5, 8 years in, that we decided we were going to get strategic partners to help us go to the next level. And not because we needed their cash, because we needed their experience and their knowledge and their guidance and leadership. And that was a big decision for me. But it wasn't the flash in the pan, start with $20 million in the bank and let's build this thing from the ground up. It was build something out of nothing, take the hard journey, learn how to do everything, and then go find the right people that will help you get to that next level. And I think that's important to share, because there's not just one way to grow a business.
Well, this path that you've just shared with us is full of leadership. You've had to grow a lot as a leader. It seems only in a few short years, you've gone from being a sole employee to the CEO, and you have a factory in LA and responsibilities for the livelihood of your employees. That transition of being a one-woman show to a leader couldn't have been easy. And a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs have trouble letting others take the reins.
Yeah.
How have you gone about it?
It was definitely quite the journey, and I'm still on that journey. And it has taken everything from, hiring an executive coach to recognizing that, we got to a certain stage in the business where we'd done it all ourselves, completely bootstrapped. I owned the business 100%. And I looked around and I realized that there were places where I didn't fully understand everything and that I needed help. And you could let your ego get in the way and say, well, I'll figure it out. And I came from I was raised by a single mom. So I was very independent from a very young age. So it was kind of really hard to shake that off. But I recognized that by not getting more help, I was actually hindering the growth of the business, and I was slowing things down. And, maybe finance isn't my favorite subject, and there's so many things that I am, so passionate about. Why don't I lean into the things that I'm really much better at and find people that can complement my skill set? And it's easier said than done. But when I finally found our VP of finance and our CFO, it was just like, someone ripped the sky open and dropped a gift on my head and said, here's help. And they know what they're doing. And also they're going to teach you, and it's going to be awesome. And you just have to be willing to say, yeah, I don't know how to do that. And so a lot of those moments really helped cultivate this ability to just go to that next phase. But it was hard, and it continues to be difficult, and you have to let go of stuff. And to your point earlier, like, I used to do everything in the company, from marketing to sales to shipping, you name it, and to almost like pry your fingers off of the steering wheel of your business and say, okay, you get this pinky, and now you put your finger on the steering wheel, is kind of how it's felt. But for any entrepreneur out there listening to this, it's like, that is the journey. There isn't another path, and you shouldn't feel like a failure in any way, shape, or form when that is difficult, because the reality is it is difficult. And I'm really grateful for having gone through it and continuing to do it, because that's how you learn and how you grow. And the day you stop learning is the day you should throw in the towel, because you got to keep learning in life.
Agreed. Thank you, Ellen, for allowing us to learn more about your journey. Please stay tuned for part 2, where we will talk about how Ellen views the evolution of her business as it continues to grow, and more about her book.